And the first man that we see emerging from the mists of time, up on top of the jump, the Spanish flag gives him away, it's Marc Colomé. Former world champion, indoors and outdoors in 1996. The man who won the last round unexpectedly on home territory at the Palau Saint-Jordi when he defeated reigning champion Dougie Lampkin. So the Montesa Honda-mounted Marc Colomé hoping to continue that form here in the City Hall of Vienna in front of a packed house of 7,000 fans, joining Amos Bilbao and Steve Colley there in the lineup before the top billing himself, reigning world indoor and outdoor champ Dougie Lampkin. The Yorkshireman sticking a Union Jack down his boot to ride down off the ramp, advertising the A1 ring, where of course World Superbikes will be on Eurosport later this year. But right now we're in Vienna in the City Hall. I'm Jack Bernicle, this is Dougie Lampkin. He's the man who's got still a handsome lead in the World Championships despite that defeat in Barcelona. Since when, and he was defeated also of course by Steve Colley and Graham Jarvis in Bercy, so he'll be thirsting for revenge. Not the sort of man to take defeat lightly. Dougie Lampkin from Silsden in West Yorkshire. Bruno Camozzi from Belfort in France. Marcel Jastribo, the 20-year-old former European champ from Spain. The quiet man Graham Jarvis from Canterbury in Kent, 23 years old. And, oh, the little fella down there. The camera's got to dip down to catch Amos Bilbao, 29-year-old veteran. And the relative youth of 26, Steve Colley from Onken on the Isle of Man, refusing to look us in the eye. So a great setting here. Bernard Estrepol, the French entrepreneur, has supplied the sections for the City Hall here in Vienna. And of course we've got to have a local hero having a go, and this is the delightfully named Richard Hitzler. That's Hitzler on a Montesa. Richard Hitzler attacking section 3. Probably to demonstrate, I would imagine, to the local crowd just how difficult this game is. Oh, but they're pleased he's got this far. Because of the very tight schedule that these guys are on, not Mr. Hitzler incidentally, but the boys who've got to fly off for the 5th round of the championship in Lisbon the following evening. That's Austria to Portugal, no short hop. Mr. Hitzler, he'll be staying back at home, I should think. Of course, every World Championship round has a wild card or two, so you can pop a local boy in to see how he makes out across against the world hotshots. Oops, and that's how Richard Hitzler makes out, not too well. So he 5 section 3. Here he is trying section 5. The championship at the moment being led by Dougie Lampkin from Marc Colomé. And oh dear, and I think Hitzler's already and he's taken out one of the men in white, who was obviously, understandably, more intent on preserving his own skin, really, than saving Mr. Hitzler. So Hitzler 5s those two. In fact, he 5'd all the sections and ended up with a total of 36. He somehow lost 6 on the first section. That's inexplicable to me, but 36 points in total means that he should be seated dead last. And we have a look at Bruno Camozzi. Now his close friend and confidant, the gentleman with the splendid egg head who we saw co-commentating in Bercy, is indeed Bernard Estrepol, offering a bit of advice to Bruno on how the muscular 27-year-old should attack the section that Mr. Estrepol himself has designed. Here he goes. But not sufficiently confident. Getting up some very Sheffield-like sleepers. A bit of a Martin Lampkin section there. That was actually section 1. And that was Bruno's less than convincing attempt. So the big Frenchman, multi-French champion, picks his gas back off that one and moves on to section 2. See if he can fare a bit better on these crates. These crates are actually full. I don't know whether it's beer. It probably is, actually. I should think Bruno would enjoy a few gallons of that afterwards. So these crates are actually full of liquid of some form or another. You see it sloshing about under the impact of this mighty man. Bernard Estrepol watching on with interest, getting a very first-hand view of how the boys cope with his sections. 7,000 rapt pair of eyes on the Frenchman at the moment. And it's quite a nice course, this one. A lot more turns and actual technique involved than the very full-on sections that we saw in Barcelona. Bruno Comozzi, inspired by three times world champion Thierry Michaud. Had his first trial way back in 1988 when he was 17 years old on the world scene. Oh, and he's got himself well stuck there. Can he get out of it? He's got to put both feet down to do it. That's not the hole that you want to get those rear tyres into. But Bruno recovers, just 2 points lost. And recovers well, 2 points as he clears section 2. And Bruno Comozzi, the mighty 27-year-old Frenchman, goes on in fact to 5 the last 2 sections and finish with 13 points down, which is a good score. Could conceivably get him into the final. This is Marcel Justribo, the 20-year-old Spaniard from Lleida. Oh, and he's sticking on section 4. Oh, on absolute tiptoe. Look at the concentration and determination in those dazzling blue eyes of Marcel's. He's got 1 foot down to rescue it. He's got to get that front wheel up. And he does it like that. Clever boy. Just 1 point lost with one of those extremely long dabs. And he's recovered. Down the slope, turn right. Remember, this is section 4, and also in keeping with the format of the World Cup, the first round marks get dropped, the 4 finalists score from 0, and they ride the sections in reverse. If you think they're frightening this way, wait till you see them the other way round. Woo. Pops over the top, cogs it down a gear. Recently signed onto the Spanish Federation team, and Montesa Honda. And escaping with just 1 point loss from section 4, Marcel Justribo, 10th in the World Championship in 1998. Onto the logs, and this fearful waterfall. This looking an extraordinarily difficult one. Oh, and looking very, very difficult to Justribo, who doesn't even make it to the first 2 steps. So a very solid 5 for him to complete a round with 16 points down. So he's behind Comozzi. Richard Hitzler is way back on 36 points. So it makes you realise that was a good round by Bruno Comozzi, the French champion. He also 5'd that fearful waterfall. And this is little Amos Bilbao. Now Bilbao, the 29-year-old Spanish veteran who's been signed as development rider on a 2-year contract, they're being watched by his teammate Marcel Justribo. Because it's only the top 2 lads who've got their own minders with them, because the schedule's so tight. These guys have got to they've got to fly off at 4 o'clock in the morning to Lisbon in Portugal for the 5th round of the championship. Amos Bilbao then on section 3. Amos finished on the rostrum in 3rd place last year. Oh, in Vienna, but not this time. Not looking likely anyway, with a 5 like that. Oh, he's not pleased with his... Oh, good exercise for the pectorals there, Amos, but not quite what you intended. So, a fat 5 for Amos Bilbao. Not looking on the sort of form that took him onto the rostrum behind Dougie Lampkin and Steve Colley. It's no good fighting for grip when there's 6 inches of air between that sticky rear tyre and the concrete it's trying to grip. Here we are on section 6. Beg your pardon, section 5. Section 6 is the waterfall, of course. Good Lord, for a moment I thought Amos was about to take off into thin air then, but instead he pops it round to the right. Now this is the sort of quite technical, neat little section that suits the slightly mellower style that Amos has developed. He said he was a very aggressive little bull in a china shop when he was 18. But 10 years on, he's just cooled down a little. The ardour has dampened slightly. But nonetheless, look at that. A classic piece of Bilbaoism. And he carries it on round the stadium floor to a roar of applause from the packed house of 7,000 here. And that's Amos Bilbao ending with 26 points lost. The world champion who topped the first lap, just 4 points lost. A very, very neat and scripted first lap it was. Lampkin dropped 4 points, Colomé 5, Colley 6 and Jarvis 7. So there are your finalists, and the unlucky 13 of Bruno Camozzi in the end wasn't quite good enough. So Lampkin will have the advantage of going last on each of the sections, which of course we tackle in reverse. And this man, Graham Jarvis, the potential disadvantage of going first. Remember, after his brilliant first round, staggering first round in the Palais Omnisport in Bercy, in Paris, he so nearly won the Trial Master, the 10th Trial Master of Bercy, and he's getting into the spirit of things, rousing the crowd for this tremendous third gear jump. Only third gear because there isn't much of a run up to it. Hit that ramp, soar across the gap and stop it dead. Like that. A roar of applause from the crowd because Graham is the first one up it. Now he turns the bike round because he favours the left side to drop down crab-like first. And again. And Jarvis looking likely to clean this, and he does. Clean on the first section. Graham Jarvis on the French-built Copa made down in Montpellier. And this is how he hit that ramp and took the jump. Beautifully done. And at least they're supplying somebody up there, the organisers, because neither Colley nor Jarvis have minders with them, so at least someone's up there in case something goes disastrously wrong. Now, the 26-year-old Manxman, Steve Colley. 6 marks dropped on the first lap on his gas. Now, doubtless Colley will ask for a bit of support as well, because he's that sort of lad. Look how high it is. Did you see the way he looked up then? Yes, please, let's have a bit of support. OK, third gear and a run-up of about 1 wheel before you hit the ramp. Watch him get that wheel up, like that. Perfect. Oh, no. Steve Colley doesn't have to turn it round. He favours dropping down right-hand side first. Oh, and typical Colley, he dispenses with going down sideways and just leaps off for a spectacular clean. Steve Colley then, safe and sound through section 1 in the final here in Vienna. And that's how beautifully he flew up there. And this is the high-spirited face of Marc Colomé. We must stop taking the mickey out of him, bless him, boyish-faced. He looked a bit happier in Barcelona, didn't he, when he's got himself a bit deeply into the trough there. He's got to ease that front wheel up. Keep the pressure on it, get those legs extended, whoops, slight overbalance, fire it over the lip, perfect. And, of course, his minder is with him, right up there, on top, the legendary Salvador Garcia, who won 7 World Championships alongside Jordi Tarras as his minder, and then moved on to Marc Colomé. Colomé lines himself up as instructed, then rolls it back to give himself the maximum amount of run-up. Releases that front brake and up he goes. He took a bit of time down there, so Salva, as he's affectionately known, takes a quick check of the watch. And notice again how Colomé turns himself right round because he prefers dropping down left-hand side first, like that. I wonder if that means they're cuddy whifters, as we call them in the northeast, which is left-handers. Again, down he goes. No heroics, just a simple clean for Marc Colomé in the end, and within time. So, Colomé clean, everybody making a bright start. Dougie Lampkin will be next up. See if he can keep up with Marc Colomé, because we've seen how even a world champion like Lampkin can make those little mistakes that eventually cost you. But look at the determination on that chin. In fact, on that whole face. Lampkin then, just eases himself up. Martin Lampkin, father and mentor, advisor, and very proud to be, in fact, involved in his son's career, dramatic career. Stands right up at the top, waits for the beater to rev its way up there. And Dougie, so that's 3 out of 4 of them turning right round to go down left-hand side first. That's it, Martin just again issuing a few directions. Dougie's going down, cogs it down, hooks it back up to second, drops off, and he'll just flick it down and off. Just heard his dad saying plenty of time. So all 3 men start off with clean sheets, so this is going to be a tight final, because remember, there only 1 point separated them, 4, 5, 6 and 7 points down in the first round. But of course, these sections are a bit of a different kettle of fish. Colley and Lampkin watching their compatriot Jarvis. Remember, the 3 of them produced a wonderful 1-2-3 at Bercy. Now Grimble, chipping the wood off the casings containing the bottles then as he scrabbles for grip with the scorper. This is second gear stuff through the pallets. I beg your pardon, the crate's full of drink. Wouldn't we like to know what that drink is? Grimbo doing a nice job, because it's quite strange to see them completely minderless. Nobody there talking to them, guiding them through. Simply the expense, really, of flying 2 people rather than 1 out to Vienna, then straight on to Lisbon. And Graham Jarvis proving that he didn't need a minder. A superb clean for him in section 2. Now the fired up lion's face of Maxman Colley. Again, working without a minder. I was going to say fresh from that brilliant triumph in Bercy, but of course he had the relative disappointment of Barcelona in between. Sorts the gears out on the gas, the Barcelona-built gas, for whom he's very much a development rider in the Team Andorra Jordi Tarras squad. Very neatly bridges the gap there, exactly where he wants to be. Flicks himself up, using those long legs all the time. It's when you get lazy and don't use them enough that you get, and just at that moment he lost his balance. Well, isn't that amazing? The stuff that they balance over, and Steve, just a fractional loss of concentration, and he had to drop one of those feet down. He'll shake his head at that. So Colley drops 1 mark, the first man to fall victim to Bernard Estrepo's sections here in the City Hall in Vienna. Mark Colomé. Now Colomé, interestingly, 5 this sort of relatively straightforward section. I say relatively. Last year, when he had a very poor visit to Vienna, and he didn't actually make the final. So Colomé, at least he's gone 1 better this year. He's made the final. Last year, he was his Spanish compatriots Bilbao and Cobos were 3rd and 4th. Salva issuing instructions as ever. And he's dropped it in the hole. It's almost a junior mistake by Mark Colomé there. Well, how did he manage that? He dropped it down, and just where Steve Colley straddled the gap perfectly. Now let's see if we get it in slow-mo. See what happened to Colomé. Just watch what happened to that back wheel. He needs to drop down there and hold it. Clamp both brakes on and just hold it across the gap. And he doesn't do it. He actually, the back wheel rolled down. It didn't slide, it rolled down. So he never had that back brake on. So a remarkable mistake by Colomé, and that's cost him a gruesome 5. That's going to take a lot of making up against these boys. Well, against the British boys, in fact. Dougie Lampkin. Martin actually fairly subdued. Perfect, his favourite word, and in this case, Doug, he's just where he wants to be. Back wheel a bit higher than the front, just to get the lift up there that he needed. It's astonishing. It's his precision that's astonishing. Absolutely, and the fact that he's also quite quick with it. He rarely gets into trouble time-wise on sections. He's so quick with these short, snappy, neat moves. No extravagances, nothing more than it needs to be. Look at that, the way he just tiptoes off. Dougie Lampkin then, once again, showing that he's recovering from Barcelona. And of course, he's also got a brand new rear shock absorber that was delivered the Tuesday before this event, direct from the factory in Florence by Beta, to help him improve the results that had dropped with his first defeats of 1999 in Bercy and Barcelona. Graham Jarvis attacking section 3 on the Copa. A really neat, tricky second gear section of concrete pillars which have got increasingly slippery as the evening has worn on. They're sort of polishing up with the tyres, as you can see, rubbing around for grip. They're spinning those rear tyres to get the grip that they need and to set themselves up as they want. The tense, quiet face of the man from Canterbury, who will be 24 years old next month, April the 21st. BMXing until he was 10 years old. And then when he was 17, he went into adult trials. That was 1992. And 2 years later, in 1994, hot on the heels of Dougie Lampkin's victory in 1993, he so nearly became the second Englishman to win a European Trials Championship. He lost out by 2 points at the last round to Spaniard Jose Benitez. Where is Jose Benitez, we might well ask? Well, Graham Jarvis has gone on to 14th, 9th, and then eventually 4th places. 4th place in a brilliant 1998 in the World Championship outdoors, but he just keels over slightly, has to plant a foot down hurriedly there. He doesn't want to be falling off the top of there. So just 1 point down for the white-booted Graham Jarvis and the blue and white Copa. Unusual in that it's steel-framed, this bike, rather than aluminium. These bikes, of course, very, very light. They weigh in just over 70 kilograms. Oh, beautifully engineered. Looks up anxiously to see if he's lost a point. I think he might have lost one on time through that one. But a brilliant performance by Grimbo. I mean, just had to put a foot down there, but doing this stuff without a minder. Look how high that middle section is. Looks even higher from up there in the sky. But I bet it looks pretty high from there as Steve Colley gets himself up. And then after that third gear to hop up there, notches it down to second. Look at the concentration on that face. Again, operating with no minder, doing it all by himself and proving just how possible it is. Oh, look at that, just rolling the back wheel around, just giving it enough clutch to roll it round, dropping down, planting the bike. Both wheels hard, both brakes hard on. The guy who has a great one-man stunt show on the Isle of Man, his native Isle of Man, during the TT Road Racing Week. Ooh. Just to say, grip sufficiently on the front there. Now watch the legs at work to get him up onto the top. Like that. Oh, sending the concrete flying. Takes a quick look at either the audience or the clock, I don't know which. And then just manages to get enough grip. Oh, beautifully dropped down, inch perfect. Rolls it over on the sump. And a brilliant performance by Steve Colley, and he's clean on time. So Colley makes up for that little mistake that he made on section 2. Now Mark Colomé, he has to make up for a big mistake on section 2. And a horrendous 5, which will probably give him nightmares. Again, notice how they just tap the gears down until they're in bottom and then hook it up to get that second gear. Make sure that the Honda engine, the factory Honda engine, which of course he's been relieved of the responsibility of developing, because it's that's in the hands of Takahisa Fujinami, who's spending most of the winter back home in Japan. And also, as Mikel Chirera, the head of the Montesa Honda trial program, pointed out when they signed up the very experienced Amos Bilbao, it would allow Mark to concentrate on the competition to the full. Up to now, his work had also included the development and preparation of the bike, but Amos's experience should be a great help, and it frees Colomé to concentrate on competition. Waves a quick leg as he drops down off that extremely high pillar, but clean so far. The second's ticking away, but he's got plenty of time as he leaps off, just to say staying on course there, because you don't want to be jumping clean off the side. That would be very much a 5. Ooh, and there's that urgingly Montesa up on top. Now Dougie Lampkin, yes, as the helmet says. Just dropped. Commentator and Martin mimicking one another here. In fact, he's translating by just simply addressing the Viennese crowd in English. Nice to know that they speak our lingo as well. I wonder if they speak it in broad Silsden, West Yorkshire. Half a tyre left. That's it. Dougie does it. Inch right. It's amazing, isn't it? And there he is, 48 years young, 1975 world champion on a Bull Taco. Dougie. Oh! Just needs a little bit extra effort to pop it up on top. Oh, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. All in one. And considering how polished and slippery that section was, you wouldn't have thought so. Dougie Lampkin cleans it beautifully. So, he's the man who's gone clean so far. He's the man in the lead, albeit by only 1 point, every point vital. Graham Jarvis on top of this rather terrifying-looking section 4. Like I said, some of these sections looked they looked horrible enough going the other way, but wow, this is a frightener down here. Now they've got to drop down here and then turn sharp right and go back uphill at the bottom. Watch this. Jawohl, says the commentator. And look, without a minder, Grimbo's just got to feel that back wheel round. That's it, and he's done it beautifully. It seems to me fantastic indeed. It seems to me that Grimbo's not wasting any time without a minder. He's doing a smart job, isn't he? And he's clean. A brilliant Section 4 performance by Graham Jarvis, still very, very much in contention. That was great stuff. You wonder how vital a minder is. I know that I'm going to get loads of shrapnel now from the likes of Martin Lampkin and Malcolm Rathmell, of course, who's usually minding for his protege, Graham Jarvis. Great view of the back wheel as it grips and goes up the slope. Now, this is a 4th gear entry there. Just to make sure they get right to the top, they actually need 4th gear to get up to the top of there, and then cogged out right the way down, pop it back into 2nd. This is Steve Colley, of course. Colley also doing without a minder. Oh, neatly short-cutting across the slope. Great faith in that very sticky compound on the Michelin tyres. And now again he's got to roll it over. Oh, what a great shot. And here he comes down the slope, and hopefully not into the camera lens. Even Steve taking it very gingerly down there. Now he's got to make space. He's just trying to look down almost between his knees to see where that back tyre is. He hasn't got someone to say he can go another inch or two. Beautifully steered round. And again, using the knees to urge the front of the bike forward. Beautiful and clean again. Tremendous performances from the two Englishmen. Steve Colley and the Gas. Great stuff. They're really putting on a great show, Jarvis and Colley. So good, indeed. The tune telling the tale. And here we go, the fourth gear assault, Mark Colomay on the Montesa. 1996, indoor and outdoor World Trials champion, and he was the guy, an even more dramatic view of the descent. And his fortunes really pivoted when, in an absolute cliffhanger in the 1997 indoor series, he lost out in a runoff at the final round in Monte Carlo to Dougie Lampkin. And it was as if his confidence has never completely come back since that night. It actually went down to a runoff. They were level on points. They had to run off to decide who was going to be the world indoor champion in 1997. And Lampkin took it. Since when, he seems to have been in the ascendancy, despite everything that Salvador Garcia's impressive pedigree can do. But that was perfection, wasn't it? Colomay just lifts himself across the top, no more than needs be. So he also has cleaned it. Still just that stark section 2.5 to prey on his mind. Off he comes. And now Dougie Lampkin. Look how steep that, no wonder they need fourth gear to get up there. Here he goes. Now Lampkin, that rear shock that he's got from Paoli has been, it's a stiffer shock than he was using in Bercy and Barcelona, and it's obviously doing a much better job. It's been developed for him by the veteran Italian Donato Miglio, who does the development work for both Paoli and Beta, and it was freighted over, airlifted over to Silsden, I presume. Flew into Silsden on Tuesday prior to the event to make sure that Dougie had time to get used to it before coming out and fitting it to the bike that was waiting for him in Vienna, having been posted directly from Bercy. These bikes, of course, will go from Vienna for the following week's World Round in Bremen, which you'll be able to catch in a couple of weeks' time on Eurosport. Eurosport bringing you the best in World Cup indoor trials and the best of the action of our top three in the world, virtually. Certainly the top 3 out of 4. This man, Dougie Lampkin, the pick of the bunch. And there he goes, clean again, clean so far. So that's section 4, everybody clean through that. And that horrendous waterfall awaiting them. Now the waterfall, I beg your pardon, before the waterfall we've got section 5, these bales of logs. Second gear all the way, but looking much, much more menacing in reverse. Now this is going to be an important one. And a tricky one without a minder, and the first guy to attack it mindless is going to be Graham Jarvis and the Scorpa. Now these gaps, surprisingly enough, they're the sort of easy bit. Not that we'd think that. Drops down. Now it's when the turns come into play that it gets a little more awkward. Jarvis has got to lift up onto that shaven log. Oh! And he's not made it, has he? No, he rescues it. 1 foot down. A good rescue. 1 foot down. The observer has his thumb up there to indicate that not just well done, but you've lost 1 mark so far in this section. So the Canterbury exile, now resident for the past 5 summers and winters in Yorkshire, Harrogate. Oh, this is a nasty one. Now, it's a sort of double step up onto that log. Oh, he's not made it! Just not quite enough gas, or not finding enough room to get the firepower that he needed. Graham Jarvis, watch this, he goes for that there, and it simply rebounds, doesn't get the grip. That sawn off wood at the end there, that's not going to provide you with a lot of grip. Now, what has Steve Colley learned from that? He hasn't got a minder to discuss it with, he's got to make up his own mind what he's going to do. Because, of course, that's the vital breakthrough. That's the chink in the opponent's armour. When you see someone 5 like that, it's your opportunity to make valuable ground. Now, first he's got to sort out this bit that cost Jarvis a little fraction of his confidence as he turned onto it. Steve, you notice, spending a lot of time looking down beneath his feet. Beautiful so far. Now, how's he going to deal with it? It looks as if he might use it more as a sort of step on. Use the bale of logs beneath the huge tree. Oh, it's still a nasty step up, isn't it? That view shows just how much height he's got to get with the front wheel. The commentator trying to rouse the crowd a bit. Colley needs a bit of support here. Oh, he nearly made it, but not quite. Oh, and there wasn't the grip. Salva desperately cleaning up the approach ramp there for having seen what happened to Colley. Oh, Steve so nearly doubled the back wheel up onto that log, but it wasn't quite to be. He needed another 3 or 4 inches movement to the left to make sure he got there. Now, the thing is, what will Colomé do? How will he, from what he's seen, from what Salvador Garcia has seen, what will they decide to do now? Remember, it's their big opportunity. He 5'd section 2. He's seen Colley and Jarvis 5 on section 5. Can he retaliate? He never exactly exudes confidence in facial expressions, but you've got to believe that he's better than the face lets on. And believe me, he is. Salva takes a quick look at his watch. Now then, what's he decided to do? The question is, what's he learned from... He obviously thinks it's worth the risk. He obviously thinks he can do it from this point, almost the same as Jarvis attacked it. I beg your pardon, more... Is it more the way that Steve Colley took it? Let's see what happens. He's got the front wheel well up before he makes his move. He must feel secure from there. Oh, but he's not. He's not. Oh, Garcia, look, you could see he was rattled with that. He did a sort of a combination of the two, really, from watching both Jarvis, and look at that. He thought he could bounce it up right on the corner of the wood, and it just didn't take. Well, what a surprise. Now, certainly, Dougie and Martin Lampkin had already decided how they were going to tackle this section. They already had their idea in mind, and I bet you it'll be a dead safe one. They've seen what happened. They'll have really had proof of what can happen here. Now, remember, if Lampkin were to come anywhere near cleaning this, then he's surely got the whole thing tied up. Because with the waterfall to come, he was the only man to get to the top of the waterfall, raised the roof with a prodigious 3 on the first round, 3 huge prods, just got him to the top. The crowd's rising to Lampkin. Oh, he's got it now. What's he going to do from here? He's tried the same approach as Steve Colley, but with one big difference, a mighty prod. Well, have you ever seen anything less spectacular than that? That's the way to do it. A solid Yorkshire prod, a great load of Yorkshire gumption, and Dougie Lampkin has more or less won it, just like that. It may have not been spectacular, but boy, it was practical. So Dougie Lampkin, has he done enough to win here in Vienna? Join us in a few moments' time and find out if the answer's yes. Performance here in Vienna, and here's 1/3 of that dazzling British performance. Graham Jarvis attacking this horrendous waterfall, which only Dougie Lampkin has made it to the top of, and only just. The problem, says Dougie's father Martin, is that they're in 2 sections of 3 steps, and they're actually sort of prefabricated slabs of concrete. They're painted just to make them even more slippery than having gallons of water gushing down them. And there's poor Graham Jarvis without any minder in sight. That must be an awful prospect, going up there with no one to grab you. I'm not surprised that he didn't fancy that too much. So Graham Jarvis fires that good and proper. And what I was saying, these 2 sections of 3, the 3rd step is sticking out too far. It's just a bit of a design fault, really. So the lads are tending to sump out on it, as you saw Graham did then. It simply means that unless they're attacking it at an angle, they can't get up onto it. So here's a justifiably uneasy-looking Steve Colley eyeing it up. Oh, at least Martin Lampkin, bless him, has had the decency to go and stand up there himself, and although he's not minding for his son in this case, he's minding for his good friend Steve Colley to see if he can help him up there, because certainly you need the confidence of someone ready to grab your bike, if not yourself. So you can see that the problem is they need to get up at an angle. The grip is absolutely at a minimum. And that 3rd step that from where we can see now, it's sticking out sufficiently to catch the sump guard and create real problems, as if there wasn't enough of a problem with having no grip. And there's Steve in exactly that problem. Can you see how the sump is down? He manages bravely to get back on, but now he's got no grip at the back. It must feel like you're on ice. It's a horrible design, isn't it? Look at that back wheel scrabbling for some sort of grip. How on earth can he make progress from there? But but he knows he's got to try. He knows he's got minded. Look at that back wheel spinning. Oh, go for it, Steve. Yes, he's managed to hang it on there. Oh, dear me. But now, where does he go from here? It is quite the most vengeful waterfall I've ever seen. The one at Sheffield looked awful enough, and the one at Madrid that Mark Colomet crashed off so horribly last year, and which cost him any chance of the world title. Oh, here goes. Look at Colley's legs go, but no, he can't make it. Ooh, and the gas drops uncomfortably down. And Steve doesn't look too happy about that. That really is a very nasty waterfall indeed. I don't think Martin will be picking up any hints and tips from Bernard Estrepo on how to build waterfalls for Sheffield Sheffield 2000. That was an uncomfortable moment for Colley. So 2-5 so far. And now it's Salvador Garcia's turn to get his feet wet. Mark Colomet's second successive opportunity to try and make something of picking up the deficit on both Colley and Jarvis, because remember, it means valuable points. 17 points for second place, only 13 points for fourth place in this final. It'll make all the difference in his attempts to reclaim that World Championship. Can he do it? He must have seen that they saw how Dougie Lampkin managed to produce 3 hefty great prods to get himself to the top. But judging by the way Garcia's holding out for him, it looks like there's not a lot of confidence there. Oh, he hasn't grabbed it. But look at that back wheel slithering and sliding around. Look, there's no grip there at all. Oh, how long can he hold it there? He's got it up. Almost miraculous stuff, but that was all one long prod. But he's got to get the angle to get the step up onto the next one. Oh, brilliantly done. He's got a margin of grip there. Wonderful stuff from Colomet. Can he do this? If he could just get up there with that one mark down, that would be a phenomenal achievement. No, he's got to go. Oh, but not enough. No. At least he saves the bike from destructing. So Mark Colomet, a very, very brave attempt indeed on the waterfall, but not quite sufficient, and it's a 5 for him. So Colomet, I think, is going to be stuck with fourth place, down in fourth place. That was a tremendous effort, but once that left foot was planted, you knew that the confidence wasn't quite there to make it to the top. So can Lampkin do anything about repeating his roof-bursting 3 in round 3? I beg your pardon, in the first round. This boy turns the ripe old age of 23 on the 23rd of this month. Went to his first trial when he was 5 weeks old, the Scottish 6 days, taken up pipeline in a pram, as he so fondly recalls. I don't know whether he can actually remember it. He probably can, actually. Oh, but he's not going to... Oh, no, he's holding on. But almost back off it. Martin's staying put. Dougie's turning around to check with the scorer. I think he's hoping the scorer says, no use, mate, you've already 5'd it. But no, he's going to have another go. I think he's decided discretion is the better part, and a slightly disappointing climax there. Dougie Lampkin already looking like he's won this 4th round of the World Championship Series, retaliating against his first defeat of the year in Barcelona. Dougie Lampkin has to give best to the waterfall. Bernard Estrepo must go back to the drawing board to find out if he can make a waterfall that even a world champion might stand a chance of getting up there. Gallons of water gushing down. Now we have the race off, which, of course, the victor only benefits by 1 point. So Colomet, unfortunately, can only claw back 1 point on Graham Jarvis, and it already looks as if Graham Jarvis has decided that he's comfortable enough. If he loses 1 point, it'll only make his total 13 overall, and Mark Colomet's already on 15 with his 3 drastic 5. So Colomet then racing for pride, really. He's going to be in 4th place, and that will not help one bit his attempt to regain the World Indoor Championship from Dougie Lampkin. So there he goes. Mark Colomet wins in style. Graham Jarvis loses in style, but it should still be. He gives a wave as he jumps up there, or a little wave as he jumps up there, because that means that he's pretty much assured of 3rd place on the night. And now we have a quick look at how Mark Colomet won that. It's a slightly kinder race, isn't it, than the one we saw at Bercy, although not as terrific as the one in Barcelona, where Martin Lampkin reckoned that Taras, the man who built the section, had actually put more effort into the Supercross circuit around the edge of the track than he had on the sections in the middle. But this race is definitely kind of the one in Bercy. That was a horrendous affair, wasn't it? Again, I think you might find that Colley's going to take this one. Colley will want to win this. Lampkin may not be too bothered, because with just 6 points lost so far, that tremendous 1 mark that he dropped on section 5, combined with the 5 from the waterfall, means that just 6 points down mean that Steve Colley can't do anything to prevent him winning. Colley's going to have to settle for second place, but he's enjoying springing his way back in the lead and entertaining the crowd here in the City Hall in Vienna, which... and here he goes, Steve, woo, showing his supercrossing instincts once again in this stadium that also holds rock concerts and five-a-side soccer, tennis tournaments, rather like Paris-Bercy, the City Hall in Vienna. But it's Dougie Lampkin, just 1 point down, 7 total, 11 total for Steve Colley, and there they are. Probably the best in the world indoors. Dougie Lampkin on your right, Steve Colley on your left. 7 points down for Dougie Lampkin, 11 points for Steve Colley in second place, and with 13 points down for Graham Jarvis, it's another, they've shuffled the cards, but it's another British 1, 2, 3, as in Bercy. They've just adjusted the order slightly. Lampkin coming back from his third place there to take victory ahead of Colley. Graham Jarvis in third place. Let's do a few quick sums, and we find that that gives Dougie Lampkin a clear lead of 20 points in the World Championship, 77 points against the 57 points of Mark Colomé, with Steve Colley just 2 points further back from Colomé in third place, and Graham Jarvis still very much in the reckoning on 49. And there's the stylish and ever spectacular Steve Colley celebrating the fact that he's finished second here in Vienna. A more subdued celebration from Dougie Lampkin, look. Just has a quick look up the ramp, checks himself out, drops himself on top of it. So Lampkin and the beater win in Vienna. Second place to Steve Colley in the Gas. Third place for Graham Jarvis and the French Scorpa. There you have the magnificent trophy that Dougie Lampkin's going to have to take home in his hand baggage, I should think. It probably cost him a bit of excess hand baggage. And there, what a great haircut. Graham Jarvis in third place on the Scorpa. Malcolm Raffle will be well pleased with that. In fact, Malcolm, you might even be redundant now, mate. If you can do as well as that without you around, who needs a minder? And a very happy Canterbury-born, Harrogate recently bred Graham Jarvis. And the ever-popular Steve Colley, twice Sportsman of the Year over on the Isle of Man, and deservedly so. Still in the reckoning for the World Championship, certainly very much for second place in the World Championship Series on the Gas. So the man who won so gloriously in Bercy, second here in Vienna. And remember, these boys have got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and fly off to Lisbon, where another set of motorcycles altogether awaits them. And they'll be taking on further World Championship action there. Dougie Lampkin, of course, hoping to repeat his tremendous victory here in Vienna. He's not too sure whether to get on, is he? He doesn't fully understand what the gentleman's talking about here. Shall I go yet? Do I go yet? Neat little photograph of the knees there, of Duke Video knees of Steve Colley. Duke Video, of course, the great Manx concern that produces world reviews of the trials, outdoor and indoors. And it'll be very much featuring these three guys once again. Dougie Lampkin then takes victory in Vienna, firmly establishing himself at the head of the world indoors, heading, of course, for a hat-trick. Won the World Indoor Championship in a cliffhanger in '97. He won it absolutely comprehensively in 1998. In fact, the last round was the last time he was beaten 12 months ago, until he lost in Bercy. What a remarkable record. He was winning overall all the way through the 1998 World Outdoor Series. And Dougie Lampkin will be back to see how well he goes and how Steve Colley and Graham Jarvis manage in Bremen. That'll be in a couple of weeks' time here on Eurosport with me, Jack Bernicle. So whatever you do, don't forget to switch on for more of the best World Championship indoor trials action. We are the station that brings you the goods. In fact, we'll also begin bringing you all the best of motocross, World Superbikes, World Motorcycling Grand Prix here on Eurosport. Join us in Bremen in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks for your company.